Hello, and thanks for joining us for our look at what the winter months may hold here in north central and southwestern Montana. I'm meteorologist Francis Credencer with the National Weather Service in Great Falls, and I'll be leading you through this outlook. So let's get started. The warm and dry start we had to the fall is but a distant memory for most of us now after the snow and cold of the past week or 10 days across the area. Indeed, Helena and Great Falls have both received over 2 feet of snow so far this season. Helena was hit particularly hard by this most recent storm. Most of the area is above normal on snowfall for the season, though some valleys of southwest Montana have not received much snow yet. Amazingly, Great Falls is running below where we were this time last year, but not by much. As you can see, almost all of Montana is considered to be at least abnormally dry, and most of north central through southwest Montana is considered to be in a moderate drought. If not for a fairly wet start to the warm season for most areas in May and June, the drought situation likely would be worse. With the ground heading into these recent snow events being above freezing in most areas, hopefully this early snowfall will help the soil moisture situation somewhat. So let's shift gears towards the seasonal forecast side of things, which, after all, is why you're tuned into this presentation. One of the biggest factors likely to influence weather patterns this winter is the development of La Niña conditions. You can think of La Niña as basically the opposite of El Niño, which is generally better known. Whereas El Niño is characterized by warmer than normal conditions over the central and eastern equatorial Pacific, a La Niña event is characterized by cooler than normal conditions in the area. You can see these cooler than normal waters shown on this map as the blue areas along the horizontal line that marks the equator. Just to orient yourself on the map, the right, east side of the map is the Americas, and Australia is in the southwest corner of the map. Now you may be thinking, how does something thousands of miles away in the Pacific Ocean impact me? Put simply, La Niña events cause global disruptions and changes in atmospheric patterns, and they can have a significant impact on our local weather here in Montana. This chart shows the Climate Prediction Center's forecast of the La Niña-El Niño status into the middle of next year, with the blue bars representing chances of La Niña conditions. As you can see, the first 5 blue bars from starting on the left are all at or over 75%, representing strong chances of La Niña continuing through the winter months. The next 2 bars are lower, representing about a 50 to 60% chance that La Niña continues into the spring months. Beyond that, La Niña is likely to weaken and neutral conditions are expected by late spring into the summer. So we have high confidence in a La Niña through at least the winter months, which will help in crafting a winter season outlook. This map shows a composite of how past La Niña events have influenced the weather patterns across the Pacific and North America. It's not a guarantee of how this season will pan out, but it gives us a good starting point. Over Montana, La Niña years result in cooler than normal weather more often than not, thanks to a polar jet, the purple line, that more frequently directs surges of cold air into the northern Rockies. The Pacific jet will inject occasional moisture into the northwestern U.S., which can also reach into Montana and bring us somewhat better chances of more moisture during the winter months. In addition, it is possible that reduced ice cover in the Arctic Ocean, especially early in the cool season, may make more moisture available to polar storms coming in on the polar jet. At the local office level here in Montana, we focus on the next 7 to 10 days and don't directly handle seasonal forecasting. Rather, our colleagues at the Climate Prediction Center, CPC, in Maryland have the expertise on long-range forecasting, so we will take their forecast and put some local interpretation and value into it. There are 3 main factors that go into a seasonal forecast. First, they will look at the current global patterns, conditions, and trends, with the biggest factor often being the current and forecast state of El Niño or La Niña status. Second, they will take into consideration what our longer-range weather models, which go out months into the future, are saying about expected changes in the large-scale atmospheric patterns. The third factor is the human touch. The forecasters will use their discretion on whether to put more weight on the first or second factors. For example, in a year with an expected El Niño or La Niña, that would likely be given more weight. And they will also use their expertise and knowledge of how past similar scenarios have played out to influence their final forecast product. Many of the forecasters at the CPC have over a decade of experience in long-range forecasting, so they have a wealth of knowledge going into these forecasts. The CPC updates the seasonal forecast every month around the middle of the month. So without further ado, here is the current CPC forecast for the December through February months, which comprise the heart of the winter season. Of course, here in Montana, our winter starts earlier and ends later, but this will give you an idea of the overall flavor of the season that they are expecting. The left map shows the 3-month average temperature forecast. The light blue over central and north central Montana shows where they have the forecast slightly favoring cooler than normal conditions, while southwest Montana sits in an area with equal chances of above or below normal average temperature. The right map shows the precipitation forecast for the season. The CPC forecasters are a bit more confident in Montana seeing more moisture than normal this winter, with the darker shade of green representing a 40 to 50% chance of above normal precipitation. Let's break down the forecast at the local level. For the 4 cities included on this slide, each has the temperature probabilities for the winter season on the left and the precipitation probabilities on the right. A couple patterns emerge. First, as I mentioned before, the temperature forecast over north central Montana is only slightly in favor of cooler than normal conditions averaged over the 3-month period. The 35% chance at Great Falls represents an ever so slight hedge towards the cool side. The Havre temperature forecast shows a bit more confidence at 40% chance of cooler than normal conditions in the 3-month period from December to January, but that still means there is a 60% chance that it could be near or even above normal. The precipitation forecasts are a bit more confident, with chances of above normal precipitation in the mid 40% range for all 4 cities. Now that I've gone over the seasonal forecast data, I just wanted to go over a few important caveats. First and foremost, these are seasonal predictions that are averages over multiple months. In this case, the forecasts shown were for December through February, Being averages, they do not say anything about how many snowstorms or cold snaps we will see and how bad they will be. We could see a bunch of nuisance snow events, but very few big snowstorms, or we could get hit by multiple big events. Both could lead to above normal precipitation, for example. They also don't say how much above or below normal we will be. There is enough skill in seasonal forecasting to have some confidence in saying whether warmer or cooler, wetter or drier than normal conditions are favored, but there just isn't enough skill yet to say whether that cooler than normal seasonal forecast means 2 degrees below normal or 7 degrees below normal. It can be tough to have high levels of confidence in the seasonal forecast much of the time, which is just a reflection of the longer range nature of the forecasts and how uncertainty increases with time. So while CPC can often say which type of pattern is favored, it's rarely considered a slam dunk. As I showed, the 40% chance of cooler than normal in Havre still means they are forecasting a 60% chance that Havre will be near or even warmer than normal this winter. And anyway, what is normal for Montana? Big swings in temperature and snowy, dry periods are our normal in the winter months here in the Treasure State. So even if we do end up having a cooler than normal winter on average, for example, there will almost certainly be periods in the winter when we swing warmer than normal. Now, with all that said, I did want to briefly cover some local past climate data. This map shows how the National Centers for Environmental Information break down climate divisions in Montana. They break these areas down so that, as much as possible, each division has similar climate and topography and isn't overly broad in size. The Great Falls NWS office generally covers Division 2 in southwest Montana, except for the Butte area, and the bulk of Divisions 3 and 4 in central and north central Montana. The data on the next few slides will be for Division 4, but fairly similar trends are noted in data for Divisions 3 and 2 as well. This chart shows December through February average temperature over the past 3 decades in central Montana. There is actually a slight cooling trend on average in the winter, which is offset by a larger warming trend in summer months. But the main point I wanted to show with this chart is just how variable our winters can be in terms of temperature in the area. I already talked about how variable things can be within a season, but entire seasons themselves also show significant variability. Very few winters in the past 30 years have been within a degree or two of average, what you might call a normal winter, with most seasons a good deal further away from the so-called average. Over the past 30 years, there has been a clear trend towards increasing precipitation across central Montana in the winter months. This may be one of the factors that CPC forecasters considered in giving them a bit more confidence in forecasting a wetter than normal winter season for us compared to the less confident temperature forecasts I showed earlier. If you put together that slight cooling trend and the clear trend towards more precipitation in the winter months, then it should be no surprise that the snowfall trend, at least at Great Falls, has been upwards as well over the past few decades. You might be looking at that last point on the chart and asking how the snow total for last season is so low when we got so much snow. But remember that this data is focused on December through February, and almost all of our snow last season fell early or late in the cold season, outside of those months. You might also be wondering if a forecast for cooler than normal and wetter than normal conditions for our area guarantees we'll have another snowier than normal winter. In a word, no. The more complicated answer is that given those seasonal forecasts of temperature and precipitation, I would hedge towards expecting more snowfall than normal again this season if I had to pick one side of the fence to come down on, but it's certainly not a slam dunk. We post a fair amount of winter weather information on our website, so I want to take a moment to give you a brief tour of that. The direct URL for our winter weather site is shown, weather.gov/tfx/winter, but I'll also show you how to get to it from our homepage. So here we are on our homepage, and this is where you will land if you go to weather.gov/tfx. And on this page, just a little brief tour of the main page. Up top, we will typically have at least one, if not multiple, weather stories, just depending on how much there is to talk about. And these images are typically also shared on our social media channels. Below that, you'll find the map, which will show where there's any watches, warnings, or advisories out. So right now, you can see we have a high wind warning out for the Rocky Mountain front through eastern Glacier County for this afternoon and evening. And to get specifically to the winter weather forecast, there's two ways you can do it. Under the forecast drop-down menu, you can go down to winter weather and probability forecasts. Otherwise, you can go down to the icon area and just click on the icon that has a couple of snowflakes on it. Either way, you get to the same location. So the first place you'll land will usually be here. If we're not expecting any significant snowfall, these maps will just default to 3-day, 72-hour forecasts. The big map is kind of our official forecast. That's our most likely forecast based on everything we've seen. But we do have the high-end forecast, which is basically your reasonable worst-case scenario, I would call it. It's basically only a 1 in 10 chance that we see more than this. On the other end, we have a reasonable best-case scenario, which, if you consider best case to be less snowfall, this will be basically there's only a 1 in 10 chance of seeing less snowfall than what shows on this map. Of course, right now, with a very dry period, except for maybe some little bit of light mountain snow, there's not much to show here. You can also, if you scroll down, there will also be these threshold exceedance charts. So let's say you're a DES person, or you're running some plows, and you want to know, we don't need to worry about plowing until we get 2 inches of snow. What are the chances of getting 2 inches of snow? Well, you can go right to that map, and we have multiple points on the map that will show you the percent chance. Obviously, right now we're not expecting really too many places, even in the mountains, to pick up more than 2 inches of snow. But a lot of our mountains do have a chance for at least a trace of snow, as you can see here. And if you scroll further down, you get these probability tables, which right now aren't showing too much, but when there is an event coming across the area, these tables will be full of our expected high-end, low-end snowfalls, as well as the percent chance of getting more or less than amounts. And you can use this little drop-down menu to pick your specific county or your area of interest, and just see those things. And we do have a specific one for passes and also for airports. We also, on this page, do have a link to statewide probabilistic information. So that will include the maps, the high-end, low-end, and expected amount maps, as well as the chance of exceedance, for specific threshold maps. It doesn't include the probability table on this page. There's also information on ice accumulation, if we are expecting any, as well as some links to some other snow and ice information. So you may find some of this information useful. Just to wrap up, I didn't want to let you go without giving you a look ahead at the shorter range forecast. The next 7 days are expected to be fairly dry and also trending toward warmer than normal. These maps show the week 2 forecast from CPC, and the forecast definitely appears to favor a continuation of warmer than normal conditions. The forecast slightly favors drier than normal, especially for central and southwest Montana, but the weather pattern may be in such a way that we do get a few storm systems across the area during the week 2 time frame. So we'll probably see at least some moisture in this time frame. Thus, the forecast for below normal precipitation isn't nearly as confident as the forecast for above normal temperatures. So I want to thank you for watching, and hopefully you got some useful information out of this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to call the office or email us at tfx.spotters@noaa.gov. Thanks for tuning in.